The thing about this week's Tsukimichi episode is that a majority of people are going to come out probably pretty pissed off with Tomoki as a character. I mean, everything about what we just saw in this episode is going to rub you the wrong way, and it's designed to on purpose. But the interesting thing about this Tsukimichi episode is it's going to make you mad, but that's a good thing, because here's the thing about what we just saw. And I saw it from last week, right? I was like, we are getting like a shield hero situation, whether he's going to get completely screwed over as bad as someone like Naofumi or any of the heroes did with that horrible skank of a woman, or he's just going to get a very rude awakening. Like, he's being manipulated. And I think for a lot of people last week, it was easy to look at a character like that and feel pity because he's basically getting the rug pulled from underneath his feet into a giant lava pit, and he's completely oblivious to it. In this week's episode, though, it's a lot easier to say maybe we should push him into that pit ourselves, because what ends up happening is they're in this middle of this big battle, right? We are now currently caught up with present day content. We've recapped and got through all the other hero stuff that was supposed to be in season 1, but obviously with only one core season, they didn't have the time or even realized if they would get more, so they kind of avoided showing it last season. So we're all caught up now, but we get to see what ends up happening, which is he pretty much dips. He leaves our girl for dead. Because ultimately he's like, listen, I've basically been immortal, right? At night, he's completely invincible. And when you really take a step back and think about it, if you were summoned into this isekai world, and I've always been a fan of when characters treat things as a video game but are clearly reality and they have to end up getting a rude awakening. That's a big reason why I enjoyed Shield Hero, because of what the characters have to end up going through. So the idea of someone who gets summoned is basically invincible, has very powerful allies, is banging some beauty who he has no idea is basically manipulating him. I mean, when you are in the middle of a battle where you've been fighting all night, all day, and this thing's not going down, and now you are no longer invulnerable. He casts some sort of spell that basically removes the goddess's blessing. He's just a person. He's a normal human at that moment. Most people are gonna dip. It doesn't make it right? Oh, hell no. Does it make it worthy of being a hero? Hell no. Logically, do you want to go die and not be a hero for the world? Logically, it makes sense that you gotta prioritize your life so you can live to fight another day, but it makes you shitty, 100%, and the people who stay behind and wanted to fight are much more valuable. I mean, it's a lot different the way he handled it to the way the girls group handled it, because, I mean, when someone's giving their life to give you an opportunity to run away, it's a very completely different experience. But this episode wanted to piss you off, and that's a good thing. I think often when we have these shows, people just want things not to infuriate us, which is weird to me because there's a lot of emotions that we'll go through when going through an epic adventures such as a Tsukimichi, and I think the idea of having one of the 3 heroes that are in this world completely disregard and just act like a coward, because at the end of the day, as much as we all want to say we would be the heroes, we would stick and die, bitch, no we wouldn't. Most of us wouldn't. You want to know why most of us wouldn't? Because most of us don't end up getting a job that puts our own lives in danger to help others. That's okay. Not everyone's gonna be a hero, and I think the idea of treating characters like Tomoki as someone who isn't a hero, but was given that role because of some magical goddess nonsense, having that kind of rude awakening is something that's really important, and I think that's why an episode like this, pissing you off, is a really good thing. Now, we got a lot to talk about, but of course, I have a full live reaction to today's wonderful Tsukimichi episode over on my Patreon, so if you'd like to see my full uncut thoughts, they're over there if you're interested. Now, last week was interesting because I very much enjoyed the kind of speed running that we got with 2 different isekai. Because, like, the characters were teased in the first season. I mean, I'm very fuzzy on season 1's details, to be fair, but we didn't really see their content. And from what I understand is that naturally in the source material, those would happen alongside our boy, like our MC, right? But of course, with it only being a 12 episode season, they don't know if they're getting a season 2, so they're gonna prioritize the thing that's gonna keep people here. And if So I'm a Spider, So What showed me anything, is that if you show anything other than the main character's perspective, bitches be hating that and criticizing it. I don't know why, but it is what it is. I loved last week. I thought the speedrunning was awesome, showing literally 2 different types of stories kind of simultaneously happening, and seeing it even more in this episode. I thought this episode was a lot less like fast-paced, but equally as enjoyable. I think, I mean, rip to our girl, of course. Like, she went out like an absolute boss. I had no idea what she was doing. I knew she was killing herself, but when the rose thing activated, I was like, I don't really see what the issue is here. Apparently, if you take that blessing, you're going to die. So it's like, okay, if she can take out forearms over here, well, at least they can keep on pushing through. And if that doesn't work, well, we're gonna have the gust of wind just force us away. It's a very emotional scene because they're all giving it their all, right? Like, literally, they have nothing supporting them, no reinforcements, they have no idea what they can do. And this thing is literally, we've all been there, and I've said this in different videos for different shows before, but it cracks me up every time. The moments when you're fighting a boss in a video game, I just went through 10 healing potions. My weapons are breaking, but damn it, we finally did it, and then you're like, that was phase 1. The most recent example for me was anyone who's played the video game Lies of P, that Soulsborne Pinocchio game. A very good game, recommend it. There's some bosses in that game, I shit you not. There'd be times where I would be like, 30 attempts, I finally beat it, and I'm like, there's a third form? There's a second form? And it's like, the fact that they had to do that with this giant beast who pretty much, he's like invincible, man. She literally launches what is essentially a nuclear strike on this man, sacrificing everything in the area. And I thought she did well. And then Busty Beauty comes over and says, hey, wake up. And he molts like a snake shedding its skin, and he's fine. I mean, what do you even do with something like that? That is insanity. And I had to admit, the Demon Queen, or whatever she is there, she reminds me of the Drow from Baldur's Gate, like in terms of the way the shading is on the skin. Definitely popping out of her chest, but not that many people are going to be complaining on that front. But I really enjoyed this because, you know, you have two different storylines going on, you know, ignoring our boy, he's always active, but we have two very different types of hero fantasies. One which is like a shield hero manipulation plotline that's clearly going on, but it's a more long-term plotline because she's going to use this boy for whatever she needs him for. She'll sleep with him, she'll do whatever she needs to in order to manipulate him to doing exactly what she needs. Where with Hibiki, it's interesting, it's more of a traditional like hero fantasy in the way that like, okay, yeah, she maybe isn't as strong as Tomoki, but she's powering through, she has a great support with her, and ultimately there's some rude awakenings with, well, of course, you know, losing one of your party members like Naval. Like, she went out like a G. And I thought, while the animation wasn't the craziest thing and was pretty lackluster and under-animated leading up to the Forearms battle, the Forearms battle was awesome. Like, it was a beautifully produced, and I think when you really consider the fact that there was like thousands of soldiers on screen at certain points, right? Like, when the demon like removes like the ground and they fall down that hole, that was like 1,000 people, like if not more. So when they're like shooting arrows and it's not really animated, that stuff really doesn't bother me because when you consider the alternatives, a 3D army fighting or a static image with some sound effects and maybe a little bit of movement, I'd take that over the 3D army most of the time. And the fact that they did show us some really good animation with her fighting forearms, that to me is more important. Like, I'd rather the big action moments be well animated and the just generic marching army shooting or maybe swinging a sword here and there just be a slideshow. That's just me. But I think anyone who criticizes the animation up until that forearms moment in terms of the action or movement is a completely fair criticism. I'm just saying it doesn't really bother me personally, so just kind of giving two sides of the coin there. Now, I know, of course, that these episodes aren't for everyone, and that's okay, but as someone who loves having other perspectives and loves the idea of having 3 different hero storylines going on at the same time, our boy's the most interesting and I think the most rootable to follow, but I love the fact that they can infuriate you with one of these hero storylines, but when you understand the fact that it's like, imagine playing a video game and you know that you can die as much as you want, but then what happens if someone flips a switch and says, hey, if you die one more time, that game's gonna brick and you can never play this video game ever again. You're gonna be treating it a lot differently. So imagine doing that with your life. It's not respectable, it's not honorable, but human nature, for the most part, isn't honorable, and we do prioritize our own lives other the lives of others. It's a pretty shitty thing, but that's humans for you. Let me know what you thought of this week's Tsukimichi episode down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, we had that full live reaction over on my Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, you also get a video shout out. Alright, so today we have FCCL, Azop, Eds, and Ben Lu. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care. Have a good one.